For over 75 years, it was a fact as basic as the sky being blue. Our solar system had 9 planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. We learned it in school, built lopsided models of it for science fairs, and felt a certain comfort knowing it was out there, the cold, distant, and steadfast final member of our cosmic family. But then, in 2006, the unthinkable happened. In a move that sparked international controversy and even gave us a new word, to be Plutoed, meaning to be demoted or devalued. Our favorite underdog planet was stripped of its title. Suddenly, the solar system had only 8 planets, and a question was left hanging in the minds of millions. What on earth happened to Pluto? This isn't just a story about a scientific reclassification. It's a story of epic discovery, shifting perspectives, fierce debate, and the clash between scientific precision and public affection. This is the full story of how Pluto was found, celebrated, and then, controversially, demoted. Before we dive into the video, I want to ask you something. Do you really think that we as humans on this little planet Earth play any major significant role in the workings of the universe? I know Pluto does not really care about whether we add it to our list of solar system planets or banish the planet to the ranks of something insignificant. Because today's video is full of exactly such moments where we have made ourselves more important than we are in the grand scheme of things. Watch till the end of the video and comment down below your thought on the same, and what are your views on Pluto. If you're someone who loves exploring the strangest, most mind-bending mysteries of the universe, do go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And while you're at it, tell me this in the comments. Where are you watching the video from? I go through every single comment, and I'd love to know who's exploring the universe with me today. Now, let's get into it. It all began, not with a bang, but with a wobble. Back in the late 1800s, astronomers were wrestling with a celestial mystery after they found Neptune in 1846 because of its gravitational tug on Uranus. They noticed that Neptune's orbit wasn't quite right either. Something else, a massive, unseen world, seemed to be lurking in the darkness beyond, pulling on the ice giants. They called it Planet X. One man became obsessed with this ghost planet, Percival Lowell. He was a wealthy Bostonian who founded an observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona, for the specific purpose of finding it. Starting in 1905, Lowell dedicated his observatory and his fortune to the hunt. His team took thousands of photographic plates of the night sky, hoping to spot a faint pinprick of light that moved against the backdrop of fixed stars. Lowell died in 1916 without ever finding his Planet X, his life's work seemingly unfulfilled. But the search he started was far from over. Enter Clyde Tombaugh. In 1929, Lowell Observatory resumed the search for Planet X and needed a patient, meticulous observer. They found him in a 24-year-old farm boy from Kansas. Tombaugh couldn't afford college, but he taught himself astronomy and had even built his own powerful telescopes from spare tractor and car parts. The observatory was so impressed by the detailed drawings of Jupiter and Mars he sent them that they hired him on the spot. Tombaugh's job was grueling. Night after night, he took long exposure photographs of small sections of the sky. Then he'd take another set of the exact same section a few nights later. The real work happened during the day, in a small, dark room with a machine called a blink comparator. This device would rapidly flash between the two photos. The millions of stars on the plates wouldn't move, but a planet orbiting inside our own solar system would have shifted its position. Against the static background, it would look like it was jumping or blinking. For nearly a year, Tombaugh sat in the dark, blinking through millions of stars, a task that required almost superhuman focus. Then, on the afternoon of February 18th, 1930, while comparing plates from late January, he saw it, a tiny faint dot jumping back and forth. He checked a third plate, and there it was again. He'd found it. After a quarter century of searching, Planet X had been located. The news was telegraphed to Harvard on March 13, 1930, coincidentally, Percival Lowell's 75th birthday, and it exploded across the globe. An American had discovered a planet. It was a moment of immense national pride. The observatory was flooded with over 1,000 suggestions for a name. The winner came from an 11-year-old schoolgirl in Oxford, England, named Venetia Burney. She suggested Pluto, for the Roman god of the underworld, a perfect name for a world in the cold, dark depths of the solar system. The name also held a secret tribute. Its first two letters, PL, were the initials of Percival Lowell. For decades, Pluto was the celebrated ninth planet, the final frontier of our solar system. But even in these early days, the seeds of doubt were being sown. The planet X that Lowell had predicted was supposed to be a monster, a giant with enough gravity to mess with the orbits of Uranus and Neptune. But as astronomers studied the new discovery, a problem emerged. Pluto was small, shockingly small. Initial guesses, based on that phantom pull on Neptune, suggested it was about the mass of Earth. But as observations got better, the estimated size of Pluto just kept shrinking. By the late 1930s, some astronomers had revised its mass down to a tiny fraction of Earth's. Planet X, it seemed, was more of a planetary pebble. To make matters worse, later recalculations of Neptune's orbit showed that the irregularities that started the whole search didn't even exist. They were based on a miscalculation. Pluto's discovery was a complete and total fluke. For decades, Pluto remained the oddball of the solar system. It wasn't a rocky planet like Earth or Mars. It wasn't a gas giant like Jupiter or Saturn. Its orbit was another huge red flag. While the other 8 planets circle the Sun on a relatively flat plane, like marbles on a dinner plate, Pluto's orbit is tilted by over 17 degrees. It's also extremely oval-shaped. For 20 years of its 248-year journey around the Sun, its orbit actually brings it closer to the Sun than Neptune. No other planet does that. The next big blow to Pluto's ego came in 1978. An astronomer named Jim Christie was looking at photos of Pluto and noticed something weird. The images looked slightly elongated, like they had a bump on the side. At first, he figured it was just a bad picture. But after checking plate after plate, he realized the bump was real and it was moving. He had discovered a moon. He named it Charon, for the ferryman who carried souls to Pluto's underworld. The discovery was monumental because by observing the orbital dance of a planet and its moon, you can finally calculate its mass with precision. The result was devastating. Pluto was even smaller than anyone had realized, less than 1/400th the mass of Earth, and smaller than our own moon. The discovery of Charon also revealed that the two were basically a binary system. Charon is so big compared to Pluto, about half its size, that they both orbit a point in the empty space between them, like two figure skaters spinning while holding hands. This was unlike any other planet-moon system. Pluto was just getting weirder and weirder, but the real turning point was just around the corner. In 1992, everything changed. After years of searching the outer solar system, astronomers David Jewitt and Jane Liu discovered a new object. It was small, icy, and orbiting the Sun way out past Neptune. Soon, they found another, and then another. They had found the first members of a vast, frigid, donut-shaped region of space that had been theorized decades earlier by an astronomer named Gerard Kuiper. It was the Kuiper Belt. Think of the Kuiper Belt as a cosmic junkyard, a realm of millions of icy bodies left over from the formation of the solar system. As astronomers peered deeper into this region, they had a startling realization. Pluto wasn't alone. It was simply the first and biggest Kuiper Belt object they had happened to find. Suddenly, all of Pluto's quirks made sense. Its tilted, eccentric orbit wasn't weird for a Kuiper Belt object, or KBO. Lots of them had similar wild orbits. Its icy composition wasn't strange. That's what they were all made of. Pluto wasn't the misfit planet. It was the undisputed king of the Kuiper Belt. For some astronomers, this was enough. As early as 2000, the Hayden Planetarium in New York famously updated its exhibit to show only 8 planets, causing a huge public stir. But the real nail in Pluto's planetary coffin was hammered in on January 5th, 2005. An astronomy team led by Mike Brown at Caltech discovered a new object in the outer solar system. This one was a game changer. It was named Eris, after the Greek goddess of discord and strife, a fitting choice. And initial measurements suggested Eris was even more massive than Pluto. The discovery of Eris created a crisis. If Pluto was a planet, then Eris had to be the 10th planet. And what about all the other large KBOs astronomers were starting to find, like Almir and Makemake? Were they planets too? Would we have 12 planets, 20, 50? The word planet had been around for thousands of years, but it had never been given a strict scientific definition. The discord sown by Eris made it clear. Astronomers had to decide once and for all what a planet actually is. So, what were these 3 fateful rules that brought Pluto down? Let's break it down. First, a planet must be in orbit around the Sun. This is simple enough, and it's meant to exclude moons. Pluto clearly orbits the Sun, so it passes this test with flying colours. Second, a planet has to be massive enough to have pulled itself into a nearly round shape. In scientific terms, it needs to have achieved hydrostatic equilibrium. Small asteroids and comets, which are often lumpy and potato-shaped, fail this test. But Pluto is definitely spherical, so it passes the second test too. 2 for 2. The third and final rule is the one that caused all the trouble. A planet must have cleared the neighborhood around its orbit. This was the deal breaker. What does clearing the neighborhood even mean? It means a planet has to be the gravitational king of its orbital hill. As it forms, it either sweeps up, flings away, or captures all the other junk in its path. The 8 major planets, from Mercury to Neptune, have all done this. They are billions of times more massive than anything else that shares their orbit. Pluto, however, fails this test spectacularly. It hasn't cleared its neighborhood at all. It lives in the crowded Kuiper Belt, surrounded by thousands of other icy objects. Pluto's mass is only a tiny fraction of the total mass of everything else in its orbit. It isn't the dominant kid on the block. It's just one face in a very large crowd. Eris and Haumea also fail this third rule for the same reason, which is why they, along with Pluto, are now dwarf planets. And the IAU made it clear. Planets and dwarf planets are two totally separate things. A dwarf planet is not a type of planet. And just like that, Pluto was out of the club. The IAU's decision may have been scientific, but the reaction was pure emotion. The public response was swift and furious. People grew up with 9 planets. Pluto was the little guy, the underdog, at the edge of everything. Its demotion felt personal. Protests erupted. School kids sent angry letters to the IAU, calling them planet killers. Petitions to reinstate Pluto got hundreds of thousands of signatures. The state of New Mexico, where Clyde Tombaugh lived for many years, passed a resolution declaring that Pluto would always be a planet in its skies. And the American Dialect Society chose Plutoed as its 2006 word of the year, meaning to demote or devalue someone or something. The scientific community was just as divided. Many planetary scientists were outraged, arguing that a decision this huge shouldn't have been made by only 424 astronomers, less than 5% of the world's total, most of whom weren't even specialists in planetary science. Alan Stern, the head of NASA's New Horizons mission, which was already on its way to Pluto, called the decision embarrassing and just plain sloppy science. He argued that the third rule, clearing the neighborhood, was poorly defined. By that logic, he said, even Earth wouldn't be a planet, since it shares its orbit with thousands of asteroids. Proponents shot back that Earth is overwhelmingly dominant in its zone, unlike Pluto. The debate revealed a deep split between 2 camps. Camp 1, who think a planet's orbit is what matters most, and Camp 2, who argue that if an object is round and orbits the Sun, it's a planet. The debate still rages today, but while the scientists argued, Pluto itself was about to have the last word. On January 19th, 2006, 7 months before the vote, NASA launched the New Horizons spacecraft. It was a piano-sized probe on a 9.5-year, 3 billion-mile journey to do something no one had ever done: visit Pluto. When it launched, Pluto was a planet. By the time it arrived, it was a dwarf planet, but no label could diminish what it was about to show us. On July 14, 2015, New Horizons flew just 7,800 miles above Pluto's surface. For its entire existence, Pluto had been a fuzzy dot in our most powerful telescopes. We had no real idea what it looked like. What New Horizons sent back stunned the entire world. The images revealed a world of breathtaking complexity. Pluto was not a dead, static ball of ice. It was a vibrant, dynamic world. It had vast, smooth plains of frozen nitrogen. Most famously, a massive heart-shaped feature nicknamed Tombaugh Regio. It had towering mountains of water ice that soared 11,000 feet high. It had ancient riverbeds carved by flowing nitrogen, bizarre snakeskin terrain, and massive knife-like spires of methane ice taller than skyscrapers. It even had a thin, blue, multi-layered atmosphere. There was even evidence of ice volcanoes and a possible liquid water ocean deep beneath its surface. The flyby was a massive success. It transformed Pluto from a pixel into a place. In a perfect twist of irony, Pluto's demotion had generated so much public interest that its grand unveiling became one of the biggest science stories of the decade. Everyone who mourned its loss as a planet was now captivated by its rebirth as a world. So is Pluto a planet? Officially no. But the New Horizons mission proved that its classification doesn't define its importance. It's a complex, beautiful world, the king of the Kuiper Belt, and a gateway to understanding the vast, frozen frontier of our solar system. The debate might continue, but one thing is certain. Whether you call it a planet or a dwarf planet, Pluto will forever hold a special place in our culture. It's the little world that sparked a huge debate and in the end, revealed itself to be more wonderful than we ever could have dreamed. If you loved this deep dive into Pluto's wild story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more explorations of our amazing universe. And now we want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments. What do you think? Is Pluto still a planet in your heart? Or do you agree with the scientists? We'd love to hear your take.